I've not showered today. That's okay, isn't it? Like
Rob, you look better than ever.
thanks, mate. Thanks.
Well, thanks, Rob, for joining us on this conversation. Rob, you've been a big supporter of Hello Sunday Morning for a long time, and I wanted to take the opportunity, and thanks for providing your time to us to talk through what I think a lot of our members are going through, which is the anxiety of how we're dealing with this, but also, the small humorous aspects of it and what's happening. But before we get into right now, maybe you could share with us about your own relationship with alcohol and how it's changed over time from the early days right through today.
Yeah, okay. So I think probably the people who are watching this will know me from Australian Idol from 2003 as the sort of young larrikin party boy kind of kid, which I was at 21. But since then, growing up, maturing, growing my own self-awareness and self-worth, realize, maybe that's not how I like to be perceived. And that was until probably late 20s, early 30s. I think we all go through that growth though. And if I talk about in the last sort of 12 months or so, I found myself a lovely partner who's not a big drinker. And then I realized, I started thinking about what am I actually drinking for? Am I drinking for the escapism? Am I drinking for the fun of it? Am I drinking for the habit of it? What does it actually do for me? Do I change when I drink alcohol? Does it make me feel terrible the next morning? Yeah, it does. So I remember when you guys started a few years back, your mate Maddie put me onto you guys. And instead of naming and shaming the people who are out getting, who are hungover on a Sunday, it was celebrating the people who are up and about. And I went, that's a really great way of doing it. Let's put a positive spin on this. Let's celebrate all the good things that you can be doing with your time. So for me, I over time started questioning my relationship with alcohol. And last year, I downloaded Daybreak at the start of the year. Didn't drink for the first 10 weeks of the year, which is party time, in Melbourne. Like the tennis is on, the Grand Prix is on. There's a lot of big events. It was interesting to see what conversations I would bring up during that time. Of why you're not drinking. Can you still have fun? I can tell you right now, you can still have fun. Have a couple of coffees. I tried that out. Don't have too many because it does kill you up. But I think I'm a pretty jovial. I'm not, I'd say, out there person. I'm extroverted, so I get my energy from other people. So if I'm in a room with people who are up and about, I'll pick up that energy anyway. But over the year, I was using the app and just finding it really heartwarming and supportive, and to see how many people are either really struggling or just how many people actually just want to get a hold of this. A lot of people just want to stop drinking completely because they found that they couldn't just have one or two. They would just, as soon as they started, they would just go through the whole basically alcohol cabinet at their house and then go to the bottle shop and then keep going. So it's different. It's definitely different for everyone. And I know that I didn't have a drinking problem as such. I never really drink during the week. I probably had a binge drinking problem, which I've, as I said, over the last 12 months have really just pretty much stamped that out. I think there might have been one or two nights throughout the year last year that I had. To be honest, I feel so much better for it. The mind is clearer, less anxiety. And in this time, if we could move to where we're at now in this isolation period, a lot of people are posting videos and wine time and having drinks, and I can't imagine that's great for you. I had 2.5 glasses of wine a couple of nights ago, and I spoke to my partner. I woke up in the morning with just mild anxiety. It was, which I hadn't had the first 2 weeks of our, isolating. So I think I'll go back to just one glass or back to no glasses at all. So yeah, that's sort of my relationship with alcohol. As a youngster, more of a binge drinker type. It was always around. when I was a child, alcohol was always around. We weren't encouraged to drink by our parents. It was just like, well, if you're going to drink, have one or two. So I didn't grow up with a big drinking culture, I don't think. But yeah, now I don't really drink midweek at all, and even on the weekends, socially, one or two, and also the designated driver. So I like being the driver.
When you were first questioning your relationship with alcohol and thinking about trying something different, what it sounds like anxiety is a thing that has often come up for you, which in your profession is very common, but also it's quite an interesting relationship between putting yourself out there on show and performing and dealing with this sense of anxiety. How have you managed to do that without drinking? What do you do to?
So I grew up in bands, like cover bands all throughout Melbourne. So I was singing 3 or 4 nights a week before I did Australian Idol. Then more gigs and stuff, I suppose, after Idol. And I got into musical theatre 2007, 2008. And that was a real shift as well. No one drinks before you do a show. You do a 2-hour musical. You do a physical warm up, and you do a vocal warm up, and then you do the show. You might have a drink. They call it Thirsty Thursdays after the show. Some people would go crazy, and I was like, I'm kind of like the lead guy in this. I can't do that. So I think that changed my mindset as well back in those days. The discipline of having to turn up for work every day and be really on it, having all the eyes on you as the lead in a show, and also by the audience, and also by the company, by the ensemble and the cast and the crew. It's really important to set a good example. So yeah, that's where I think it really changed for me in the performing aspects. But there's no way you want to go on stage where you already got your own adrenaline going before the nerves of going on stage, and then that voice in your head that's doubled, quadrupled, 10 times over sometimes if you've had a big night, going, you don't remember the words, do you? You don't know what you're doing. You're like, no, I do know. So imagine that, like, compounded 100 times is terrifying. So yeah, I don't drink before a musical. And
when you said you woke up the other morning after a couple of drinks and you had that mild anxiety, not everyone, I guess, is really in touch with that sense of what makes us anxious, or even feeling that and then labeling it as an anxiety. It's like, just, oh, this is just who I am.
Yeah.
How have you learned to kind of separate yourself from those kind of subtle impulses towards that thinking?
I started seeing a psych many years ago. I've got a really good psych now who I talk to on Skype, which I think is super important for all those who are watching this video, is to know that you don't have to go, and everyone's time poor these days. No one wants to go to the doctor, get that mental health note from the GP to then get your 6 a year, which, by the way, is amazing. You get 6 free
Sessions. Yeah.
Sessions with a psych is incredible. But I now, because I'm super time poor, I'm always traveling, I can actually see mine over Skype, which is just brilliant. But I think it was seeing him, and over the last sort of I'm 38 this year. So almost the last sort of 10 years, really growing my own self-worth and knowing that those voices are just thoughts. They're not actually my own narrative so much. Sometimes it's just noise, and it's okay. You just have to acknowledge them and go, all right, thanks, mate. Thank you for not believing in me. Thank you for worrying that I don't know who I am, or thank you for worrying that I don't have a job like everyone else. But sun's up. I'm doing okay. Like, it's just acknowledging that fear or that anxiety and not letting it drive you, not letting it be the driving force. I think for some reason, what the alcohol does, the more you drink, it's a depressant. So it just it takes away all that serotonin. So all the things that make you feel good, it makes you feel good on the night before. Doesn't so much boost your serotonin. Alcohol just stops you thinking. It just shuts down your thought process and gets you on
thinking.
Well, only gets you thinking about the moment.
Yeah.
Whereas when you wake up in the morning, you're not thinking about just the moment anymore. You're actually thinking about all the things that come flooding in. So that's why I would highly recommend just one or two
Yeah.
is probably the best way to do it. And also just building your own self-worth, working out who you are as a person. Do the work with a psych or a counsellor or friends or mateship, or find a good group of people, whether it's a sports club or a group of mates, or find out what that is, find out who you are. Makes it a lot easier to deal with that anxiety, because then you go, oh, these are my pillars. This is who I am. These are my friend group. This is what I value. The greater your self-worth, the less your anxiety, for sure.
Totally. I have my, I'm seeing a psychiatrist now at the moment. I'm seeing him this afternoon.
Right. Skype?
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course it's Skype. Or we just go for a walk at like this far.
Yeah. But it's so valuable. I mean, as you go through your week, will you take note of things that you're doing, or when that thought comes along, and then bring that up in the session, or how does your session work with them to explore these things?
I suppose the best thing about seeing a psych is they're not telling you anything you don't know. They're just making your own thoughts clearer in your own mind, and how you actually work out the problems, or decipher those messages or those thoughts. I just blurt out a lot of stuff with my psych. He's just a really good listener. The best thing I think about talking to a psych, and even on the app, they've got one you can talk to as well, which is great. I prefer this because you actually get to see a human reaction, and you get the tone right and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But you actually just get to offload all your stuff, and they don't give you any of theirs. They give you solutions and chat and jokes and gags, and a good psych, I think, should empower you by the end of the session. But when you talk to a friend, or you have, you've got problems, you talk to your partner about them, or they still want to tell you their stuff as well. You're like, oh, I've got to work out their stuff. Best thing about a psych, you don't have to take on anyone else's stuff.
It's a great endorsement of professional therapy.
It's super selfish, but be like it's for an hour, like for that hour and a half. Super selfish. It's great.
And so
you pay for it, but trust me, it's worth it.
Absolutely. And so tell me, I know a lot of people are kind of feeling anxious in this situation, and particularly in our community. What are some of the practical things that you do when you do feel that anxiety outside seeing a psychologist to manage that?
It's pretty easy. My partner's really good at working it out as well. She's like, something's not right. Maybe we just haven't talked. We haven't communicated for a while. So the key to getting rid of your anxiety is one, acknowledging it, and then two, just talking about it. As soon as you acknowledge it and talk about it, it diffuses its power over you, or it can somewhat. A really easy thing to do is to go for a run, or do some sit-ups, push-ups. We're all stuck inside at the moment, but bushwalks, if you can, any kind of nature is really good for the soul. It's scientifically proven. I'm sure you've got the stats on your page. I know I've read them somewhere about being in the wilderness. If you can jump in the ocean, if you're near a beach or a lake or a river, probably not the Yarra. It's not recommended. But yeah, any kind of exercise, getting the endorphins going and raising that serotonin, that'll guarantee to make you feel better.
And what's going on in your life at the moment?
Fun employment, we call it in the arts industry.
And how are you kind of conceptualizing it for yourself?
I think I'm one of the lucky ones in the arts industry. I had a really good work year last year. Like in the arts, you have good years and you make good periods, and then just no work for a while, and then it just does this. Sometimes it peaks really high and you earn lots, but then there are times where you just earn nothing. Last year was one of those good years. I worked full time on Neighbours last year, and also did The Masked Singer. So, and also did a few corporate gigs throughout the year. So I'm extremely grateful and fortunate that I had a good year. I was always planning to have some time off to learn to play guitar better, to work on a podcast, to work on a one-man show that I've been planning, we've just launched an online singing show called Homegrown Superstars AU. So that's a good way to, I don't know, bring some more fun into the community, and trying to keep it local, I suppose. But yeah, luckily my partner has work every day, so the normality is still there. I walk down and pick her up from work in the mornings, and we walk home. We talk about the day, and so our normality is pretty good. I think I'm missing the connection with friends. That's been pretty tough. So I've been doing. I've got a Skype chat or one of these kind of conference chats tonight with a few mates. I had one the other night. I was watching Maths. God, that is a bad television show. If you want to get rid of your anxiety, don't watch that show. It's pretty easy. It makes me so anxious, that show. They're not qualified psychologists, guys.
The do's and don'ts, according to Rob Mills, the next one.
What about you? What are you doing to alleviate this anxiety or the boredom? Let's call it that.
Yeah, it's an interesting time because I'm leaving my job in Hello Sunday Morning mid this year. And so it's an interesting time because there's a transition that's happening, and what I thought was going to happen at the end of the year is definitely not going to happen. It's probably here, and so I think trying to accept that that the future is not predictable does produce a lot of anxiety, and I also really love working from home, but now everyone's working from home, so there's no escape. It's sort of like you're just on all the time, and I'm finding that difficult. And trying to navigate that by going for little runs around the block and trying to learn how to cook well. But it's a real challenge, and I think it'll get even more challenging for a lot of people that are in worse situations. And so, on one hand, that challenge exists, but perhaps there, will bear some fruit of new innovation and new approaches to living that I'm hoping this kind of experience would afford. But I definitely think there's going to be a lot of pain for a lot of people before that happens.
Yeah, mate, I agree. I think if now is probably the best time to learn how to use the internet. Like, I don't think we ever really learnt how to use it. It just happened, and we've been trying to play catch up with how to use it properly forever. People are like, oh, I need to upskill. There are so many online courses that are out there for people to learn that we just like, oh, I'll just click on Pornhub, or I'll just click on Facebook, and there's an hour gone. I could have been reading a textbook. I could have been reading something super informative, which is all there. I'm hoping as a socialist that we learn to connect properly, so then when we're out of this, we're actually craving human contact instead of isolating ourselves. It is actually going to teach us to build our local communities better. I don't know. I'm not sure how. I think whether it's an Australian spirit thing or it's just a human spirit. I have hope, though. I do have hope that this time we'll find a way to not need as many things and we'll realize what's really important. I do find it funny how the influencers are not an essential part of the workforce now, and people are starting to realize that. That makes me laugh.
Your point about using the internet, that's a really, it's almost as though the internet and technology or screens were like a drug that was, I guess, given to humanity in the same way that drugs like alcohol are introduced to indigenous populations, and just there's no cultural understanding or cultural ritual around the effectiveness of its use. And now we're so dependent on it, but probably haven't even thought about the way in which we use it or how to use it well and what barriers and things that are there. And we're forced into this situation now where we're all dependent on it. And I think there's something really powerful about that message in now thinking about boundaries and thinking about rules on when you turn your screens off. And
yeah, mate, I've been getting headaches the last, I reckon, 4 days, and I never get headaches. And I think it's the amount of screen time I've been having, or sort of an underlying stress. I'm going to talk to my psych about it this week in our session.
On the list.
Yeah, it's definitely on the list. Yeah, for sure. As I've never felt that way before. There's a great. I went to the Festival of Dangerous Ideas a few years ago in Sydney. I saw the philosopher A.C. Grayling talk about this, about education, and about how we need to teach our children how to use the internet better, or how we best educate the upcoming generations, because we've not learned how to do it properly. Maybe this is the time. Maybe this is the time where we all start learning how to do it. I don't know. Everything takes time, though.
Totally.
It'll probably be, I mean, if we are indoors, for the next 6, 12 months, 2 years, I think the companies that innovate the best are the ones that can withstand the economic downturn will have a monopoly on the rest of the world or the rest of their industry, that's also a terrifying thought.
Yeah.
For all the innovators out there that are just racking their brains, for all the startups, I think this could be a really lucrative time for them. But for us mere mortals, I just recommend try and find ways to. What was that thing that made you happy as a kid? What was the thing that you really wanted to do? Was it to play a piano? Was it to play guitar? Or was it just to learn how to free draw? Or was it to free write more? Like, maybe this is that time. Use this pause button on life to find out what it is that makes you happy. I think, by the sounds of it from the government, I think 50%, maybe 60% of the population will be getting $750 a week. Use this time to sit at home with your kids or by yourself and work out who you are. Read, philosophical books. Read more and learn about who it is that you are. I imagine at the end of all this, you might be like, I don't want to do this job anymore.
Yeah.
I want to do this thing. And I guarantee there are people that are going to be a lot of the population that are thinking that way as well at the moment. I hope so anyway.
I think that's a really powerful message. And, the other way might be, I always thought I was going to do this, but I hate doing this. I like my job better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. 100%. Maybe it's that. Use the time to reflect. I don't think we probably do that enough. Everyone talks about meditation, or there's different ways to meditate or switch off. Some people just go for a kick of the footy or a run or whatever. Some actually sit there in the Om, which is also great as well. But I think it's the time after you do the meditation. That is the time that all the thoughts come flooding back in, and that makes you think more clearly. I had a mate, still have a mate. He's still with us.
He's still your mate?
Every time he went for a run, it was like all the folders, just say like all the thoughts in your head are folders, or like bits of paper, or there's boxes and stuff. And he would just, on the run, be able to sort of grab them in the air, put them in the middle of the folders, put them in the filing cabinet. It was his time to gather all the thoughts and then just go, that's where they're meant to go. They're meant to go in that bit. Oh, let's go on the rubbish. That's.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a really good analogy of like, oh yeah, that's right. That needs to go here. I need to call mum. I need to, I need to check on that person. I haven't paid that person back. Like, put them back in order. Put it all in order.
So
use the time to not flood yourself with more information. Use this time to grab all those things that are in the air and put them in that filing cabinet. Yeah.
It's a powerful message. And it's thanks so much for coming on and chatting with me. And it's so good, I think, to share this with the community, to know that you'll be in there posting every now and then. And part of that.
I'm here. Post some more music. If you want to, it's a weekly competition. You can win $250 for you and $250 for a charity of your choice, which could be Hello Sunday Morning. So it's you can have a different host and different theme every week. It's going to be super fun.
Amazing. Great. So if people want to connect and learn more from you or hear from you, where can they go?
Go to my Instagram. I'm pretty good at replying to people. It's at Rob Millsy Mills. And the other one that we're doing is this Homegrown Superstars AU.
Excellent. Rob, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, mate. Hey, good luck with the new venture. I look forward to hearing all about it. And congrats on Hello Sunday Morning, mate. You've done a great job.
Thank you. Thanks so much.